So hello, wellness warriors. Today we're talking about one meal a day. It's a follow-up to the video that I put up a little bit earlier. And I have a few things I want to add to help us to really understand why I'm doing one meal a day and why I'm so not worried about getting enough nutrition, getting enough energy from the foods that I eat. And the first thing I want to point out is that our body, as I mentioned in the video, needs protein, carbs, and fat, vitamins, minerals, water. But one of the things that we don't think about is the proteins and the fats are more than enough to help us to be healthy, to help us to live our day. And it's weird how in our way of eating, so standard American diet, standard Canadian diet, and standard Caribbean diet, we're so focused on carbohydrates. Now, I do believe that some part of that is due to the fact that, let's go back in the Wayback Machine, it's expensive to eat animals. And what we were doing was trying to balance our money and our health. And so we would add rice to the plate. We would add pasta to the plate once pasta was invented at some point, because rice is obviously natural, like from the land directly. We would add other things to the plate to make it feel like we've eaten enough. And I think part of the reason that we did that is because we moved away from hunter-gathering and we went into this barter system where actually in order to have food, you needed to work and trade. And so the fact that we don't live our entire day trying to get food, a plus, but at the same time, I think it means that the way that we look at food is different. We don't look at food as the main important thing we do every day. We look at our work as that main important thing. And food has turned into this thing that we just kind of do to get by. And I want us all to think about the fact that it's not what it's supposed to be. Like, the truth is, go back in history, our main goal was keeping our body healthy by eating properly. Now, with the way that food is, it turns out that we're very carb focused. And so part of it being cheaper to put carbs on the plate than meat on the plate, but part of it being carbohydrates are more fun. They taste better and better. I mean, it's weird because they taste very inviting is what I should say. We know, so all of you who follow my channel know that this fun taste that we get from food that we think is so innocent isn't innocent. 99.9% of us are addicted to carbohydrates, and then we say we like it because we can't stop eating it. But it's the same thing like if you know someone's an alcoholic and they're saying, I just like alcohol. If you know someone's a drug addict and they say, well, I just like doing drugs. Really? When you lose control of your life, that's not about like anymore. And I'm getting off topic. Let me get back on topic. We also have this idea of calories versus nutrients. And again, we can get all the nutrients that we need from protein and fat. But years ago, scientists introduced this idea of calories because they were trying to understand food. And part of their attempt to understand food meant that they were investigating how much energy do we get from food. So protein, fats, and carbohydrates. And what's interesting is that they did the scientist thing to do. They burned some of these foods and measured the energy that came off of them. Does that mean that that's what our body does with food? Well, actually, it's absolutely not what our body does with food. It's what machines do with oils and gas, and right? That's how machines translate energy for themselves. It's not how humans do. As a matter of fact, we're much more complex than that. We do some very interesting chemical processes that helps to break the food down into usable elements that then our body can take to build us and our body can take to fuel us. Much more complicated than setting something on fire and measuring the energy output. And I feel like, again, it's one of those situations where we need to allow ourselves to really look at what was done and decide, does that make sense to say that this translates equally for the human body? I'm saying no, right? This is Viola's opinion. I don't believe, and it's not just my opinion. There have been many doctors that talked about this. It's not a one-to-one translation conversion. So if I know that the energy that I'm getting from food isn't because of calories, it's because of my body uses those elements to fuel me, and it's not about burning them, it's about using them, then the other thing we need to look at is the energy source important? So carbohydrates are an energy source that the body absolutely does need. That's why it makes them. So it needs them. And I'm not saying it doesn't need them. It doesn't need them in the amounts that we give it, though. And so carbohydrates, when we have too many of them, become dangerous to the body. It causes inflammation and all kinds of other problems, plaquing in the brain. I mean, there's lots of things that happens when you have too many carbohydrates in the blood. Whoops, sorry. So there's lots of things that happen when you have too many carbohydrates in the blood. So one of the things that I want us to think about then is, are fats a better choice? Because in fact, fats don't cause those problems. So two elements we need to think about. We make carbohydrates, all the carbohydrates that our body needs. And two, eating fats doesn't cause the problems that eating carbohydrates cause. If you look a little bit more interestingly about carbohydrates, the other piece of the puzzle is when we eat things that are high in carbohydrate that are not high in protein and not high in fat, so they're just high in carbohydrate, those things tend to just give us energy and nothing else. When you eat protein, you're getting energy and building blocks because fat is usually coming along with protein. Again, why we try to deny that protein sources are the ideal food for humans, I don't understand. The fourth thing I want to point out is that the quality of the food actually matters. When we try to get energy and building blocks mostly from plants, so mostly, our bodies react. Now, we need to understand that our bodies react because plants don't actually want to be eating. So plants are living organisms and they have defense mechanisms. And those defense mechanisms are there to stop animals from eating them. If we eat enough of something, we kind of get used to feeling bad. This is one of the good things about humans, but it's one of the dangerous things about humans, that we can get used to not great stuff. And because we can get used to these things, what ends up happening is that last thing I'm saying is that the quality of the food actually does matter. And so what that means is that when we're allowing ourselves to eat healthy foods, and we're allowing ourselves to choose protein sources and the fat that comes along with a protein source, we still end up getting the right. So, and again, calories don't matter. However, when you look at it, if you're actually eating quality protein with the fat that comes along with it, your calorie count isn't lower. One of the reasons that the first place they attacked when people were gaining weight and they figured out this idea of calories that doesn't apply to us, but one of the reasons that they focused on helping us to look at what can we do to lower our calorie counts, they thought that was going to help us to lose weight. And they attacked fat first because you get more energy from burning fats. So actually, even if you're worried about your calorie count on a ketogenic lifestyle, if you're eating to satiation and eating good quality protein source with the fat that comes along with it, your calorie count isn't going to be low. This is what I've noticed with myself, is that when I eat the amount of meat that I actually eat if I'm having no veg on the plate, my calorie count isn't low. It's actually quite high. So these are the things to think about. Wellness Warriors, I'm so happy that you guys joined me here today. Like, subscribe, share the video, do the things that are going to help this information to get out to more people. Love making these videos for you guys, and I really can't wait to talk to you again next week.